Okay, hello. Welcome to today's video. So, first things first, if you are watching this on Instagram, I have written a whole article on what I'm going to talk about today, which is we are going to be talking about why the abundance teachings are bullshit and the real truth of what we're trying to get at with our abundance teachings and the real reality of abundance and what this really means for us as a humanity, as individuals, and that's the deep subject that I want to be talking on today. And so I know I'm not going to cover everything, so I've written an article. It's like 18 pages or something like this. So if you're watching this on Instagram, my IGTV or the live, you can find the article in my link tree. It's under Abundance Teachings article. If you're watching this on Facebook, you can find it in the description. And if you're watching this on YouTube, you can also find it in the description. So, like I say, I'm going to be focusing this specific talk on the abundance teachings in the spirituality and self-help worlds, and specifically speak to that. But I've explored this topic more broadly in the article. All right, so do read that. It'll be posted as a blog eventually, like in a couple of months. But if you want to read it now, you can read it now. So there's that. All right. So this is something that I've been wanting to talk about for a really long time because I've been seeing this trend. And I mean, it's not necessarily a new trend. The abundance teachings, the you create your reality, the you can manifest anything you want through thinking or empowering yourself, or right, everyone's got their idea of this, what is abundance, what the purpose of abundance is, and especially in the West, the idea that we can all manifest abundance, that we can all come to this, and our definition of abundance, meaning like millionaire status, or you can have the big car, you can have the nice car, the big house, the designer clothes, the all the things. And even in the spirituality world, right, we may not necessarily be talking about having all the things, but we talk about it in terms of it's spiritual to be rich, because if the money was in the spiritual people's hands, we would have the power to change things. If the money was in the spiritual people's hands, we could do so much more charity work, and we could supply the people who don't have what they need with what they need, and we could shift this imbalance that's happening on our planet, because the good people would have the money, or just even the teaching of like when you're living your life purpose, when you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, when you're really living a spiritual life, the universe or God or whatever you believe in is going to bless you with abundance. You're gonna have all this money, all this time, all this freedom, and all the things that money gives you. And what I want to talk about, especially within the spirituality world, is like, number one, I do though, I understand why, but how we are not stepping back and thinking literally every spiritual lineage from forever, religious, yogic, every spiritual teaching that has held up over the test, like has lasted, is founded on the idea that this physical reality, that stuff, that having things of the world isn't the answer to spirituality, and is in fact a distraction. And literally every spiritual teaching is grounded in the idea that we are not going to find our souls, we are not going to find spirituality, we are not going to find truth in the world. And yet all of a sudden these abundance teachings of like you deserve abundance and you should have abundance and it's all about getting your money and being rich is spiritual and all this stuff, and we have glommed onto it. And there's just a part of me that's like, how are we not stepping back and being like, this is the opposite of what spirituality has been saying forever. So do we believe that literally every spiritual master that has come before right now was completely wrong? Or are we just ignoring that part of the message because we don't hear it? And so that's my first thing. I'm kind of shocked at how much we are buying into this without thinking about it, and how much it's been manipulated for us to think that it's something of value when it really truly is a complete distraction from real reality. So the first and most important thing to understand when we are looking at abundance teachings and why there is some seed of truth in it, and where we are getting totally sidelined and put off track, is that the real reality is every single one of us, because we are in nature with self-awareness, wants to express. That's what we want. When we are chasing spirituality, when we're chasing stuff, when we're chasing purpose, when we're chasing passion, when we're chasing whatever we're chasing, the bottom of it all, including self-sabotaging, coping, scapegoating, all the things we do that are seemingly against ourselves, are all rooted in our desire to self-express. Everything that we do is rooted in the deep core desire we all have as life itself to grow and therefore self-express. We want to be ourselves. We want to experience the growth path of ourselves, just like everything else in nature. Everything else in nature is existing to exist. It's existing to grow. That is what life is doing. And so we are still life. We are still nature. And what we want is to self-express, to grow. And just like everything else in nature, we have specific requirements that we need to have met in order for ourselves, our whole selves, to be able to grow and express. And when those needs aren't met, we feel pain, because that pain is alerting us to the fact that something is missing, and now we can't grow properly. We can't express properly. That which is in us that wants to evolve and expand doesn't have what it needs in order to evolve and expand. When a flower doesn't bloom, it didn't get what it needed to go through its natural growth process. When a tree doesn't bear fruit, it didn't get what it needed in order to self-express that way. That was inherent in its DNA. That potential was there in the genetic makeup of the tree to bear fruit, if it's a fruit tree. But if it doesn't get what it needs, it misses nutrients, not enough water, not enough sunlight, it cannot bear fruit. Its genetic potential will not be reached. If something is antagonistic to the tree, maybe it's getting all the nutrients it needs, but there's a parasite, or there's rot, or there's some sort of accident, right? It gets struck by lightning. It's not going to bear fruit. Because, again, its genetic potential is then thwarted by some antagonistic force. We are like the trees. We are like the plants. We just have self-awareness. So what makes us different than the rest of nature is we have that. So we all have our basic genetic blueprint, the design that we came with, right? You have a specific body. You were born to specific parents with a specific aptitude, you had specific likes and dislikes. You came with, right? You were not a blank slate. You were not, like, even just the fact that you have a specific body means, yes, that there is a design to you. There is a blueprint. There are specific things about you that make your path of growth specific to you. You are not going to have the exact same path of growth of anyone else because there are specific conditions to you that are unique to you that cannot be changed. I am never going to become a 6'9" African American basketball player. That is not a part of my genetic potential. I'm not ever going to become a flower. That's not a part of my genetic potential. So my growth path, that which is going to allow me to grow into myself, is not going to look like either of those two things, ever. And if I do those growth paths of those two things, I specifically am not going to get what I need, and therefore I'm going to be in pain. Okay, now, in our childhoods, remember, we were still life in our childhoods. Yes? And the true source of pain and pleasure, pain being there is something either antagonistic to my growth, something antagonistic to my expression of self, or my learning path. So someone is trying to thwart my learning. I'm being shamed, blamed, whatever, for my things I didn't know. Or, like I say, my needs aren't being met on some level. That's what pain is. My pain is my needs are not being met on some level, or there's something antagonistic in my environment that is blocking me from being able to express my genetic potential, to express that which I am in the reality, to grow. Pleasure, literally, the source of pleasure, true pleasure, is that which supports our growth. Having our needs met, being in an environment where we can be what we are, and being able to be that. Or being able to express even though we were in an environment where we weren't held and weren't supported. Like I say, the true source of pleasure is expression. Being on your growth path. That is what feels good to the human being. So where things got confused, again, for all of us in our childhoods, was when we were small children, we could not understand our own needs. We could not meet our own needs. We didn't understand reality. We couldn't align with how the world worked in order to get what we needed so that we could grow. We were in situations where we weren't understood, where we weren't given what we needed, and there were things that were antagonistic to us, and we had no control over it. We could not remedy that situation. And so we were also under the care of our caregivers, who were essentially to us at that time God. They were absolutely everything. We needed them to provide for every single one of our needs. And if they didn't, we were screwed. We couldn't do anything about it, right? And again, I know that this is such a hard concept for so many of us to embrace, that all of our coping mechanisms, all of our scapegoatings, all of our negative habits, everything that we do that is seemingly non-self-loving or stupid or self-destructive or anything, all started in our childhoods where we were in pain, we weren't getting our needs met, where the consensus reality of what our caregivers expected from us in order for them to meet our needs, because they were God. Literally, in our childhoods, our parents, our caregivers, overrode reality for us. Having their approval and their acceptance was how we got our needs met. Period, end of story. Because they were our source for everything. If they rejected us, we could not meet our own needs, and therefore we were going to die. So our nervous systems were programmed to, I need to be and do whatever my caregivers need me to be and do so that they approve of me. And whatever it is that they rejected in me becomes the new thing that I hate about myself, that I reject about myself, that I fear inside myself. It is an existential threat. All these parts of yourself that you hate, all these parts of yourself that are self-sabotaging, seemingly now in your adult life, it just seems like, why would I do this? It only causes me pain, it causes me turmoil. No, you're doing it because it's closer in alignment with what your caregivers wanted you to be, whether or not that's who you really are, or it's stopping you from doing, being, or feeling how you actually felt, how you actually were, what you really wanted to do that they didn't approve of, or it's stuffing down the pain. Because here's the real reality. Because of how we were all conditioned in our childhoods, none of us, I don't think, I haven't met the person who came into this world with parents who fully and completely supported their growth, who fully and completely made room for their child to be their child, and then somehow even because that's the other thing too. It's like, and then we go out into the real world and we haven't evolved our understanding that we can be rejected, we can be not understood, we can be not approved of by society and still get our needs met. Okay, because in that codependent beginnings of our lives, we were trained, indoctrinated that acceptance equals love, love equals provision. Most of us never grew into, okay, but I'm an adult now. I'm not a child anymore who needs acceptance in order to be provided for. We never evolved into, okay, but now I'm an adult who can learn for myself what my needs are, right? Most of us are still unaware of what our needs are. We don't know what we want. We don't know what we need. We continue to feel pain and pleasure and then project it out onto the world. It's their fault. They need to provide for me. They need to help me. They need to fix me. They need to give something to me. Or this is happening because they don't like me. What am I doing wrong? How am I disappointing that person? If these people reject me, I'm going to die. If these people reject me, I'm going to die. It's all this external world stuff because we never learned, okay, no. Now I'm an adult. It's a totally different reality. I can learn for myself what I need, what I want, who I am, and how to get those needs met, even without these very specific people's approval. And this is why we are all attracted to people who are similar to our caregivers, because those are the rules we learned for how to navigate life so that you meet my needs and I meet your needs. This is what I do for you, and that makes you feel good, and then this is what you do for me, and that makes me feel good, and this is how I have to be so that we are all in this pattern together. That's what we're attracted to. It's a continual passing on of that lineage because we never learn, like, okay, I'm comfortable in these specific relationships because they are mirroring what I needed to be and do, how my worldview was organized as a child. So then, again, this is where pain and pleasure get confused, because in our childhoods, it is true that self-expression and growth was still the reason that we felt pleasure. But in the immediate environment of our childhoods, growth came from having our needs met, and having our needs met came from our parents approving of us. External approval. So it felt good to do whatever we needed to do to be approved of, because that was how we were going to get our needs met. So it was that kind of roundabout way of the real pleasure being, if I do if I do whatever I need to do to get approved of, I'm going to get my needs met. And the thing that really felt good was getting my needs met. But again, when approval meant squashing something about yourself, not expressing, not growing, now it was all confused, because to your nervous system, being approved of meant getting your needs met. But then you weren't getting your needs met. So now there's this very confusing pain and pleasure thing. And then at the same time, expressing myself still feels good on some level. But to my nervous system, it feels like death because it's getting me rejected. Right? So now pain and pleasure are totally crossed. We don't have a clear perception of pain and pleasure. And then again, as we grow into adults, none of us go, okay, now I can start to unpack this. Now I can start to see these things that are hurting and these things that I'm doing and this pain that I'm in. All comes from there's something inside me that isn't allowed to grow. There's something inside me there's something in my environment that's antagonistic to my growth. I'm not getting my needs met. I don't know what is true reality and what isn't. And now it's my job as an adult to do my emotional mastery work, to go into my emotions, to go into my feelings, to go into my pain, and to sort through, okay, is this pain because my nervous system is freaking out that this is not what was expected of me in my childhood and this is going to get me rejected? And it might actually get me rejected, even in my adulthood, from people all around me. But it's not going to kill me, because getting rejected doesn't mean I'm dead anymore. Or is this pain, I'm doing what society wants me to do, I'm doing what my parents wanted me to do, I'm getting approval, but it's against my true self. And then, like I say, most of us come to spirituality because we're just in pain all the time. Because being your real self is painful, because your nervous system is freaking out and we don't know why. Not being your real self is painful because it's getting you approval on some level, but it's no longer really meeting your needs for growth. And so everything hurts. Yes? And that's where most of us are. So when we come to spirituality, we're like, I know who I should be. I know what I want to do. I have all these things and this growth that I want to be doing. And I know this person I'm supposed to be, my higher self and all this, but I can't be them. And as much as hard as I try, I just keep going and doing all these things and discipline and healing retreats and ayahuasca and all this stuff. And I just can't be that person because your nervous system hijacks you every time. Right? And I keep falling back into my self-sabotage, into my coping, into my whatever. I have a few good weeks, or I don't even know why I do all these things. I'm in pain. Maybe I just lack self-love. And it's like, you don't lack self-love. Every part of you that you hate is simply a part of you that you learned gets you rejected and therefore is an existential crisis to you. So this is, again, what makes us different from plants and animals and all the other parts of nature. We have higher reasoning and higher thinking. And therefore, we have logicked ourselves out of being in alignment with reality. And this came from trauma, from forever. Okay, so the bottom line is, we all want enough. We all want enough so that we have our basic needs met, so that we can self-express. That is why we seek abundance. That is why we seek approval. That is why we seek spirituality. That is why we seek everything we seek. Everything we go after, everything we do is our current attempt at doing whatever we think we need to do, whatever we have been programmed we need to do, to get our needs met so that we can self-express. And so, like I say, when what we were trained we needed to do to be approved of in our childhood is so antithetical to our true growth path, this is why we are all so depressed and anxious and confused and lost and have no idea what's going on. Because our programming is so counter to our true growth, but that programming came as a way of trying to help us grow. The intention was, we need to be approved of in order to be provided for. So this is who and what I have to be approved of, therefore it serves my growth. But then when we start to become more and more of adult, more and more autonomous, more and more in our own, even if we're adults that still depend on our parents, we're adults now, and it's different. And we do have more of a capacity to understand our needs and to come and provide for ourselves. Now, along with this, we have to understand that society, our culture, is set up in a way that is antithetical to human growth and expansion. Our society is set up in a way that is antithetical to human growth and expansion. Whenever anyone talks to you about real reality versus fake reality, the matrix, taking the red pill and the blue pill, and all this stuff, this is what they mean. It means that same false pleasure and false pain that we experienced in our childhoods is happening in society, because it is absolutely true that so many things that are actually good for us get us rejected. So many things that are totally against our actual growth and expansion are fully acceptable. And so we still have that same nervous system trauma, that being accepted is how I get my needs met and how I survive. Being rejected is how I don't get my needs met and how I die. And now that I'm out in the world, that didn't change. We didn't change that. And we're in a world now that doesn't understand human needs and is counter to our growth. So again, we come to spirituality, and it's just this big confusing mess. So because this is what we all want, we want to be able to express and grow as ourselves. And the reality is that society doesn't support this. It doesn't. It absolutely doesn't. Being accepted in society does not support your growth. Not for any of us. It is built upon a system of trauma. Because again, rooted in the foundations of self-expression are getting our needs met. That's from the very beginning of civilization. Humanity was struggling to figure out how to survive in nature. Okay? This is the beginnings. So right now, right, we look out at the world and we see that there are all these power structures and these power imbalances. We have millionaires and billionaires that have so much more resource than everyone else and absolutely control the people. Okay, right? Because remember, he who controls the resources controls the people. Because why? We all need resources to survive. When we don't have those resources, we don't survive, and then we can't self-express. Pain. Every single one of us who grew up not having our physical needs met know what that is. It's an existential crisis because we're not plants. We're not animals. We are nature with self-awareness. So when we're not getting our needs met, either in our mind we think we're not going to get our needs met, that trauma of I'm being rejected and I'm going to die, even if there was food in the house, there was, maybe you grew up wealthy, maybe you grew up with literally so much physical stuff that you starving to death or whatever was like never going to happen, and yet you're still fully traumatized that you're not enough and there isn't enough and you're not going to be okay. You still think you need to amass more wealth. You're still afraid of everything. That's because when you were growing up, it didn't matter how much stuff you had. It didn't matter how rich you were. If your caregivers rejected you, didn't love you, didn't spend time with you. You didn't get your emotional needs met. Your nervous system, your body knew you weren't getting what you needed to survive. You weren't getting what you needed to grow into your real self. If you were trained that you can't be this way, you can't do this, you can't talk that way, you can't self-express, doesn't matter how rich you were, that's against your growth. Because we are not just nature who, once we get our physical needs met, we're good. We're not plants. We have mental needs, we have emotional needs, we have spiritual needs, and if these things aren't met, if we're not allowed to grow our empathy, if we're not allowed to grow our intellect, if we're not allowed to grow creatively, if we're not allowed to do whatever these things are, or again, we're being antagonized, this triggers the exact same fear, I'm gonna die visceral response as not having food. So now I hope we can all understand the rich people who are crazy and hoarding and don't want to share, they're traumatized just like the people who literally grew up without food. And then that scarcity mentality, I'm not going to get what I need, I'm not safe, was true and real. And probably is true and real. And that is what creates trauma. And trauma is at the root of all fucked up things humans do. The sexual abuser, the murderer, the billionaire who won't share, who keeps amassing wealth, as the kings and the queens who justified having way more than everyone else because they're ordained by God, the tribe leaders who genocide the other tribes, all through history. It comes down to that existential fear of I'm not going to have enough, which activates our reptilian brainstem, that shuts off our empathy, shuts off our capacity to see big things, puts us into fight or flight, and then we start operating from just what do I need to do right now to get my physical needs met? What do I need to do right now to manipulate whatever I need to manipulate, to do whatever I need to do to be safe? People who are billionaires, who have so much more than everyone else, are in a state of fear. They are in a state of they still don't feel like they have enough. They do not feel secure. And in very many ways, they are right. And then, like I say, on the other end of the spectrum, the people who have never had money, who grew up in war-torn nations, who have dictatorial, very controlling governments, these places where terrorists are born, where criminals are born, in the lower class neighborhoods of Canada and America, to the war-torn nations in the Middle East, whatever, South America, Central America, where do these criminals come from? They're all traumatized people who are not getting their needs met. And this creates desperation. This creates, right, these trauma, trigger, fear, I have to go out and get it. And then we have to understand and recognize that this power imbalance of people having so much control over the resources that they therefore control the people. Because again, if you control the resources, you control what people need to live and survive, that thing that we're all driven to get, you control their behavior. They're either going to go and they're going to follow whatever you say you want them to do. We're going to have dictators that are dictators forever. Or we have people who turn to crime, turn to rebellion, they try to overthrow the government, they try to come to a different country, they do whatever they need to do. They're trying to survive. They're either doing what their society has taught them they need to do to be good, creating these extremists, fringe, whatever groups. That's all, this is what I think I need to do to survive. They create the people that just go with it. And again, if we continue to now see that the way that people maintain their themselves at the top of these structures, rulers, billionaires, government at this point, how do they stay there? They continually generate in the people they control a fear of the other. That's how they stay there. They continue to tell the population, I'm not the threat to you, even though I'm the one who controls everything. I'm the one who's in control of all the resources. I'm the one who is the reason you either have enough or don't have enough. But we don't want you to look at me, because then that makes me vulnerable. So what do I need to do? I need to make it look like the threat is out there. It's the terrorists in the other country. It's those people that look different. It's the poor people you need to protect yourself from. It's them, it's them, it's them, it's them, it's them. And if you keep letting me be in power, I'll protect you from them. That's how the people who are in power stay in power. The government is continually there telling you, I will protect you. The dictator is continually up there saying, no, 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 it's not me. I'm not the threat to you. You need me. You don't have me, they come for you. The evil them, the evil them, the evil them. There's this constant deflection. And even like Bill Gates right now, don't worry, you guys, I'm going to rescue you from polio. I'm going to rescue you from this. I'm going to rescue you from that. That's how we keep them there. And at the same time, we, especially in the West, in the capitalist society, with this power dynamic that's totally messed up, we have billionaires and millionaires, and then people starving. Why does that happen? Because we are all indoctrinated into the cult. We allow people to be billionaires because we want to be a billionaire. We want to be a millionaire. And this is where the bullshit spiritual teachings come in. Now the spirituality world is telling you that it's spiritual to be rich. That to be rich is a good thing. And it's a byproduct of living your purpose. It's a byproduct of doing the right thing. It's a byproduct. When you are in alignment, you will be, okay, whoa, no. Because the reality is, so long as any group of people, any person has so much more than they need, it necessitates that large groups of people have less, because we live in a finite world. And this is not a debatable fact. No, it is absolutely not possible that 8 billion people could live like a millionaire. There is simply not enough room on the planet. There's not enough earth, occupiable space, for each and every 8 billion people, 8 billion person to have a mansion, to have 4 cars, to eat beef every day. It is not possible. There is not enough space. So when any spiritual teacher tells you, when you take so much, you're not taking from someone else because this is an abundant universe, that is fucking bullshit. That is wishful thinking. That is the system. That is keeping everything the way that it is. It is wrong. This planet has enough for 8 billion people to have enough. Absolutely. There is enough food, enough space, enough resources for everyone to have enough. 100%. And if that is not the definition of abundance, I don't know what is. There is enough for 8 billion people, no problem. Especially with our technologies now and everything we've developed and everything we know and how we know how to survive. We could do that and still be good stewards of the earth. The earth can support us if we are living in alignment with enough food, that's actual food, enough space, enough resource. There is enough for enough, but there is absolutely not absolutely not enough for everyone to be the Western version of abundant. And so as long as there are people who are the Western version of abundant, those are resources that are now no longer available for large swaths of people. And therefore, it forces people to not have enough. So, someone please explain to me how it is a spiritual thing if we are beings with empathy and the capacity to understand that no, we don't all live in our own little bubble universe. We all have an effect on each other. We are one. We are connected. We live on the earth all together. There's nowhere for anything to go except to everywhere. We are here on this planet together. So when you take so much more than you need, you put yourself in a position of supremacy, dominance, power over others, because you are now in control of resources. So then you donate to charity, or you think you know where the money needs to go and who it needs to go to and how it should be spent. How is that spiritual? You telling other people how you think they should live their lives. The reason that person needs charity is because people like us are so focused on getting our money and building our business and getting more and more and more and more and more and more and getting to that millionaire status, and it's spiritual to be rich, so then I can give to that charity. Okay, well, they need a charity because we're doing that. If we just wanted to create an equitable society, they wouldn't need charity. And now here's the other thing. This abundance teaching, we can all do it. We can all get ourselves to this awesome place. You just focus on you. You just do your thing, and then you can be a good, positive thing in the world or whatever. Is riding under the assumption that we are all equal. And we are not. Even if we completely removed all societal structures and we were just fully in nature, there's no social construct. We are just living in alignment with nature. There are going to be those of us who genetically, with our specific blueprint, have an advantage of collecting resources, living in alignment with reality, getting our needs met over others. Period. If me and my husband were sent back in time, there's no social construct, it's just him and I out in nature, he would dominate me. Because he is faster than me, he's stronger than me, he's more able-bodied than me. He would have an easier time meeting his needs than I would. And therefore, he would always have, if we were together, the capacity to collect more for himself, to do more for himself, and then say to me, okay, well, if you do this for me, if you do this for me, then I'll give you this stuff, and if you don't, I won't. And you can't do it by yourself. So you need me. That's where all this started. So we came upon these power structures completely honestly. There were simply human beings who were better at acquiring wealth, acquiring the resources, what was needed for us to survive, than others. And that is always how it will be. We will never have a society where everyone, being their full true self, is equally valued by society, that they could just work really hard doing what they can with the resources they were given to become self-sufficient. There are people who have physical disabilities, mental disabilities, delays. That will never be self-sufficient in our society. There are people who simply, the way their minds work, what they're good at, will never be valued in our society. And right now we have a society completely based on you get resources for how valuable you are. God absolutely plays favorites. And that's why I'm saying I don't necessarily believe in intelligent design. In nature, 100%. Things survive and other things don't. How many species have gone extinct? Their genetics just didn't work. In the real world, it doesn't work. And so same with human beings. We are never going to be equal. We could all say, okay, everyone gets supported till they're 18, and then when you're 18, just go out and be for yourself. And even if everyone was equally resourced from 0 to 18, the person who, in our society, say, developmentally delayed, their brain just doesn't work the way that everyone else's brain works. They will never, ever, 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 ever have the IQ of everyone else. We just let them go at 18. They're not going to become a millionaire. They are probably not going to be able to support themselves. So if we want an equal society, we want to believe that everyone can just fend for themselves and can just work harder and can just do it, a lot of people are going to die. And that's reality. If that's really what we are saying, we want to act as though we have equality. Equality of outcome. Even if everyone's equally resourced. Everyone gets water, everyone gets food, everyone gets shelter, everyone gets the same education, everyone gets the same. We're all equally resourced. We're not going to have equality of outcome. Because we're different. We have different needs. And same thing, there are going to be some people who are genius at math, and they're going to become a mathematician. And if we're in a society that values that, they are going to have more access to resource than the person who's an artist, a prolific artist, but we just don't value art that much. Or we don't value that you're a garbage man. We don't value these things equally. So society does absolutely plays favorites. Nature plays favorites. That's reality. But we are human beings with empathy. So what does this mean? This means we have the capacity to say, we don't want to play by those rules. Because again, we could say, okay, everyone deserves to be a millionaire. So the people who can do that should be able to do that. But then we need to say, well, if we really want that for everyone, we really want to believe that everyone can be a millionaire, we need a lot less everyone's. Then we need to stop social programs. We need to stop charity. We need to stop helping the people that can't do it on their own and let nature take care of itself. Because there is not enough room. If we want there to be enough that everyone can have that, then we're making a decision that we need a lot less people, and we're not going to help the people who can't do it. And I hope that sounds horrifying to you. I hope so. That sounds horrifying to me. And if we're going to say, well, let's just give everyone the chance to do it and see who and who can't, we're going to have a lot of people who can't. And are we okay with just letting that happen? Which is essentially what's happening now. And what has happened throughout all of human history. We are in denial that there is equality when there is not. And so now we need to decide, do we value the human life for the fact that it's a human life? And if this person has higher needs, different needs than this person, that we as a community work together so that person's need can get met. Because again, at the end of the day, we're never going to get anywhere with this power structure of people having so much more than they need. Because again, thinking that you can play God, that you know what's best for people, that if you have the resources, you know where to put them and how to spend them properly and who to support and who not to support. That is bullshit. That is not spirituality. That's supremacy. What we want is to create a world where the resources are distributed equally and every person can decide for themselves what they want to do and what they don't want to do. This is complicated, okay? But I'll tell you something practical as we go along. But ultimately, if we had equal distribution of resources so that everyone has enough, no one has way more, no one has way less, we would end tyrannical government. We would end crime. We would end these horrifying things that happened. I know everyone's so afraid of communism. But here's the thing. Communism never happened. Not true, because we would need a democratic communism where the power is not centralized anywhere, where we have a community of people working together for the good of the community. And again, where no one is trying to gain power over someone else. And then this would require very, very, very in touch with reality people. Because again, no matter what we do, there are going to be people who have the opportunity to overpower others. That is always going to exist. There are just going to be people who are smarter, who are stronger, who are braver, who are more resourced, who are more whatever they are than everyone else, who have the capacity to then control others, manipulate the resources, whatever, and they would have to choose not to. That's us. That's us right now. Those of us who are in the middle, we're not super poor. We have enough. We're not super rich. If we really want to say we're spiritual, then we need to say we have the capacity to be supreme. We have the capacity to work for more, to take more, bigger house, bigger car, bigger business so I can serve more people, going beyond that which I need. And we have to be the ones to say, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to divest from that. It's not spiritual to be rich. Because number one, I don't need that stuff to continue to self-express. And in fact, when we start making it about how much stuff we have and getting the stuff and getting the car and getting we're completely obfuscating the point of why we wanted that stuff in the beginning, to make us feel safe so that we could self-express. More is not better. Enough is necessary. Yes, we do need enough. But we're going to have to heal our inner traumas for us to recognize when we have enough. Because again, we're being manipulated by these teachings. They are capitalizing on our deep-seated existential fear that we are not enough, that there isn't enough, that we're not going to make it, that we're going to get rejected, that we're going to get denied, that it's not okay. We're constantly in this state of trauma where we're all feeling rejected, we're all feeling scared, we're all feeling lost, we're all feeling all this stuff, and we're acting on that. That's what's being triggered. Even in these, it's spiritual to be abundant and look at how much good you can do with your abundance money. That is still preying on your trauma. We need to heal our traumas of not enough. because we all didn't have enough in our childhoods. We all did not have enough security. We all did not have enough safety, and we're projecting it onto stuff. If I just get enough stuff, I'll feel safe, and then I can express. So we need to all understand what we want is to self-express. We need to heal our traumas so that we can recognize when we have enough, and then we stop taking more than that. We divest, and then yes, we redistribute resources to people, not in a way of telling them how to spend it, telling them what to do, telling other people what's good for them. Because it needs to be more, we give, or just simply stop taking. Like there's a huge difference between taking it and then giving it away, and therefore controlling where it's going and what's happening, and controlling other people and thinking we know what's better for them, and just not taking it. Just don't take it. Live your life. Be a human. Be you. What qualifies as enough is what you need to express yourself. So if you're comfortable, you can get food, you have a shelter, you can do your self-expressive pastimes, whether that's your job or that's just something you do after work, whatever it is, where you can live a simple life and just be yourself, that's enough. You don't need more than that. And anything more than that is a distraction. Anything more than that is a distraction from your true path. And so that's why I say the power is in our hands, in the middle. The billionaires aren't going to give it up, whatever. But we can stop investing in them. We can stop investing in them. We can minimize how much we invest in them. The people at the bottom, the single mom who has no money, who's working 4 jobs and the society is set up against her, it is not her fault. She doesn't have to stop shopping at Walmart. She doesn't have to buy organic food. It's not going to be up to her to change the system. The billionaires control her. But if we stop being controlled by them, we stop investing, we divest as much as we can, we stop shopping at Walmart. We start supporting local handmade. We start doing what we can do, because we all have the power to put the money we do have into the systems we want to see. People just being able to support themselves, doing their thing. And then don't take more than we need. The system will fall. The system will fall. If we stop taking and start investing what we have in the world we want to see, in people being able to support themselves. So charity is still a part of this, right? The people who literally are never going to have the resources to do it, we support them with money. The people who we can support, who are doing art, who are growing food, who are doing these things, so we don't have to shop in Walmart, and then it gives us an actual understanding of how much things should actually cost. We stop investing in this fake system, again, totally manufactured prices by billionaires to keep themselves in power and to keep people in slavery. We get out of that. And we understand that when we support that stuff, we support slavery. Please read my article. I have this all written in there. It is not spiritual to be rich. It is not. It is spiritual to have enough, to invest in the people who will never have enough, genetically, whatever it is, to invest in the people who are doing something that is their self-expression, to pay real prices for clothes and food and all these things and realize we don't have enough money for all the rest of that stuff. We're not going to go to Starbucks. We're going to do the independent coffee. We're going to pay a fair trade price, and that coffee is $6, not $2. Where's the gap? The billionaires, the slaves who are working for nothing. We have to end our participation in slavery. So please read the article. Life is not equal. It is not fair. We cannot take more than we need and say that we're being spiritual. It's preying on our fear. We all have that trauma. We came by it naturally. It's not your fault. But that's why we do this healing work, so that we can recognize when we have enough and we can stop taking. It's not even about giving. Stop taking. Do your inner work. Find your enough. And don't be fooled. Okay, so read the article. I love you. You're amazing. You're perfect. You're whole. You're good enough.